The USS Dauntless drifted silently through the void at the edge of unknown space. Captain John Miller stood on the bridge, his eyes fixed on the view screen showing nothing but stars. This was the farthest any human ship had ventured from Earth. "Captain, I'm detecting an unusual energy signature," said Communications Officer Diane Foster. "It's moving toward us at high speed." Miller nodded. "Yellow alert. Let's not assume hostility, but be ready." The crew moved with practiced efficiency. No panic, just the quiet focus that came from years of training. Lieutenant Kate Williams, the ship's security chief, checked her sidearm and motioned for her team to prepare. The alien vessel appeared suddenly, emerging from what looked like a fold in space. It was 3 times the size of the Dauntless, with sharp angles and pulsing blue lights along its hull. "Open communications," Miller ordered. "Universal greeting protocol." Before Foster could comply, the ship's sensors blared. "Captain, they're scanning us deeply. They're trying to access our systems," reported Science Officer Gary Mitchell. Miller's expression hardened. "Shields up, red alert." The alien vessel launched smaller craft that surrounded the Dauntless. A voice crackled through the communication system, speaking in a language no human had heard before. The ship's computer struggled to translate. "They're saying, 'We are trespassing in Xantari space,'" Foster said. "They're ordering us to power down and prepare to be boarded." Miller stood up. "Send our response. We come in peace from Earth. We were unaware this region was claimed territory and will withdraw immediately." The reply came quickly. "Too late. You will be examined. Your vessel is now property of the Xantari Dominion." "They're latching onto the hull, sir," Williams reported. "Breach teams at airlock 7, 12, and 15. Miller looked at his crew. 50 men and women, explorers who had trained for first contact scenarios but never expected a hostile. 1. Lieutenant Williams, Defensive Protocol 3. Non-lethal response if possible. Williams nodded and led her security team to the threatened areas. The ship's internal cameras showed the aliens cutting through the outer doors. They were tall, gray-skinned beings with 4 arms and complex breathing apparatus. "They've breached airlock 7, reported Engineer Jack Powell over the comm. The aliens poured in carrying weapons that hummed with energy. They seemed surprised by the brightness of the human ship's interior. More surprised when Williams and her team appeared at the end of the corridor. "This is a peaceful vessel," Williams announced. "Leave now and no harm will come to you." The alien commander made a sound like laughter and raised his weapon. Williams moved first. Her training took over. In the tight confines of the corridor, the alien's height and extra limbs became a disadvantage. Williams ducked under a swing and struck precisely at joint mechanisms in the alien suit. 2 security officers fired stun rounds that disrupted the alien's electronic systems. Similar scenes played out at the other breach points. The human crew, despite being outnumbered, fought with surprising effectiveness. They used the ship's environment, their knowledge of its systems, and coordinated tactics that the boarding party seemed unprepared for. In the medical bay, Dr. Laura Patel treated a wounded security officer while simultaneously instructing the computer to release a sedative gas into sections where aliens were still fighting. On the bridge, Miller coordinated the defense, rerouting power to needed areas and monitoring the alien mothership's activities. 20 minutes after the first breach, the last of the boarding party was contained. 15 aliens captured, 7 retreating to their ships. The alien mothership backed away, breaking contact abruptly. The smaller craft disengaged, returning to their carrier, which quickly disappeared back into folded space. Miller ordered a damage assessment. 3 humans injured, none critically. The aliens had clearly expected an easy conquest. "Get me a secure channel to Earth Command," Miller said. "They need to know we're not alone out here, and that first contact didn't go as hoped." Williams returned to the bridge. "Sir, from what we gathered, these Xantari are part of something called the Galactic Confederation. They seemed shocked that we resisted." Miller nodded slowly. "Then they clearly don't know humans very well." Across the stars, the Xantari commander was making his report to the Confederation Council, describing with disbelief how a small crew of bipeds with no apparent special abilities had efficiently defeated a standard boarding party. The council listened with growing concern as the first reports about this new species called humans began to circulate. 6 months after the USS Dauntless incident, 3 large human colony ships arrived at Proxima b. The planet had rich resources and a breathable atmosphere, making it perfect for Earth's first official off-world colony. The Galactic Confederation reluctantly recognized humanity's claim to the uninhabited world, but insisted on sending observers. Dr. Zell Thran, the Confederation's leading xenobiologist, watched the humans work from a safe distance. His 6 eyes blinked rapidly as he recorded his observations. The bipeds continue to function despite local temperature reaching 42 degrees, he dictated. Other species would require cooling suits, yet they merely consume water and continue working. The human settlement grew rapidly under the direction of Alan Carter. He was not a military man, but organized the colonists with military-grade efficiency. Within weeks, they had built living quarters, farms, and defense systems. Their endurance is remarkable, Dr. Selthron noted. Subject designate Ellen Morris has worked for 16 hours straight laying power lines. She appears tired but shows no signs of stopping. The Confederation observers kept their distance as instructed. The Council had warned them after reviewing the Dauntless reports. Humans were unpredictable and potentially dangerous, even their civilians. On the 23rd day, that warning proved accurate. The native predator species of Proxima b, 6-legged, hunters with natural camouflage, attacked the eastern section of the colony. The alarm sounded throughout the settlement. Dr. Zelthron expected panic. Instead, he watched in astonishment as civilians grabbed weapons and moved to defensive positions with practiced ease. Children were quickly gathered into central buildings. Adults formed security teams. They move like military units, his assistant Vexna whispered. But these are farmers, engineers, and teachers. Carter's voice came over the colony's communication system. Eastern sector predator pack approaching. Security teams, non-lethal measures first. We share this world now. From his observation post, Dr. Zelthron watched a woman named Susan Hill lead her team to intercept the creatures. She carried a simple stun rifle but moved with the confidence of a trained soldier. Have they deceived us? Vexna asked. Are these actually military personnel? Dr. Zelthron checked his data. No. Hill's profile says she was a school teacher on Earth. The predators attacked in a coordinated rush. The humans didn't falter. They worked in teams covering each other, using sonic deterrents first. When those failed, they switched to stun weapons. One creature broke through and slashed Hill's arm with its claws. She barely flinched, applied a quick pressure bandage, and continued directing her team. Within 20 minutes, the threat was contained. 3 predators were killed, but most were driven away. 6 humans were injured, none fatally. Dr. Zelthron approached the colony's medical center later that day. He had permission to interview the injured humans. Does your wound not cause significant pain? He asked Hill as she sat calmly while a doctor stitched her arm. She shrugged with her good shoulder. Sure, it hurts, but the job needed doing. You were a teacher on Earth, correct? Not military. 4th grade science, she confirmed. But everyone gets basic defense training these days. Space is dangerous. Basic? Dr. Xelthron's translator must be malfunctioning. The colony doctor, Peter Hayes, joined the conversation. Standard Earth curriculum now includes emergency response, basic combat training, survival skills, and stress management. Since when? Asked the xenobiologist. Since we realized we weren't alone out here, Hayes said simply. That evening, Dr. Zelthron sent an urgent message to the Confederation Council. He included video of colonists working in toxic environments without protection suits, continuing despite injuries, and functioning effectively with minimal sleep. Most concerning was his final report. The humans call this basic training. Their BO, regular civilians respond to threats with military precision. If these are their ordinary colonists, I strongly advise caution in any future confrontations. We must reassess our understanding of human capabilities immediately. In the council chambers, the message caused uproar. Species that had dismissed humans as fragile now demanded more information. Intelligence gatherers were dispatched to learn more about these alarming average humans. Meanwhile, on Proxima B, the colony continued to grow. Carter looked up at the stars one evening and smiled. Humanity had found its place in the galaxy, and they weren't going anywhere. The Vrexel Empire had heard rumors about humans. They dismissed the Galactic Confederation's warnings as exaggeration. Humans were physically weaker than Vrexel warriors, who stood nearly 8 feet tall with natural armor plating. The decision to attack the human colonies was made quickly. New Montana was the 3rd human colony, established on a harsh desert world rich in rare minerals. Major Lisa Hernandez commanded the defense force of 200 soldiers, a small garrison by any standard. When the Vrexel fleet appeared in the system, the alarm spread quickly through the colony. "They've landed 20 transport ships," reported Lieutenant Greg Fisher. "Each transport carries approximately 100 warriors." Major Hernandez did the math. 2,000 against 200. She showed no fear. "Evacuate the civilians to the underground shelters," she ordered. "Lieutenant, deploy our forces according to Plan Delta. Focus on defensive positions, force multipliers, and environmental advantages." The Vrexel landed their forces on the open plains outside the colony. They formed perfect battle lines, their gray skin reflecting the harsh sunlight. Their commander, War Master Krov, expected a quick victory. "Their defenses are minimal," he told his officers. "We will crush them before sunset." The attack began at midday. The Vrexel moved forward in disciplined formations, expecting the humans to either surrender or be overwhelmed quickly. They did not expect what happened next. The ground beneath the front line suddenly collapsed. A carefully prepared trap sent scores of warriors falling into hidden pits. From defensive positions, human soldiers fired weapons that targeted joints in the natural armor of the Vrexel. War Master Krov watched in shock as his first wave faltered. He ordered the second wave forward, adjusting tactics. Inside the colony's command center, Major Hernandez tracked the battle. "They're adapting quickly. Sergeant Daniels, execute night operations now." Frank Daniels led a small team of 20 soldiers out through hidden tunnels. They moved silently across the battlefield as the main forces kept the Vrexel occupied. Their target, the Vrexel command center, the desert sun began to set. The Vrexel, whose natural vision was poor in darkness, slowed their advance. They were unprepared when all colony lights suddenly went dark. "They've cut their own power?" War Master Krov was confused. "Why would they?" His question was interrupted as small explosions rocked his command ship. Somehow, humans had infiltrated their perimeter. Sergeant Daniels and his team moved through the Vrexel camp with night vision equipment. They planted explosives on key systems and slipped away before being detected. The Vrexel warriors were thrown into confusion as communications failed. War Master Krov tried to reorganize, but the humans pressed their advantage. "They should not be able to fight in these conditions," he raged as reports came in of human soldiers operating effectively in darkness, dust storms, and extreme heat. "Their biology is weaker than ours." By dawn, the Vrexel retreat had turned into a rout. They left behind nearly 500 dead or wounded warriors. The human losses were 27 dead and 53 wounded. Most shocking to the Vrexel survivors were the reports of injured humans continuing to fight despite wounds that should have incapacitated them. One soldier had continued firing his weapon even with a severe leg injury. Others fought effectively in heat that made Vrexel warriors sluggish. War Master Krov escaped with his remaining forces. His report to the Empire was disturbing. "These humans do not fight according to any logical pattern. They use the environment against us. They ignore pain that would stop any rational being, and they are resourceful beyond understanding." The Vrexel High Command reviewed the battle recordings with growing concern. "And these were just their regular border troops?" asked the Supreme Commander. "Yes," confirmed Krov. "According to our intelligence, they have not even deployed their special forces yet." This statement spread quickly through the galaxy. The Confederation Council called an emergency session. If these were merely regular human troops, what would their special forces be capable of? On New Montana, Major Hernandez visited the wounded in the medical facility. Lieutenant Fisher was recovering from a chest wound. How did we do it, Major? He asked. They outnumbered us 10-1. She smiled slightly. We did what humans always do, Lieutenant. We adapted, we endured, and we refused to quit. News of the victory spread to other human colonies. Earth Command sent a simple message to Major Hernandez. Well done, reinforcements en route. Nobody mentioned special forces, they weren't needed. Not yet. The Krell Collective struck without warning. Their ships appeared suddenly above the human colony on Tau Ceti. Unlike the Vrexel, they did not bother with ground troops. They simply bombarded the settlement from orbit. In less than 6 hours, the colony was destroyed. 8,000 human lives were lost. Admiral Paul Rodriguez received the news with a grim face. The USS Valiant had arrived too late to save the colony. Now he orbited the ruined world, staring at the devastation on the view screen. Send the report to Earth Command, he ordered. The Krell Collective has declared war. The next 3 weeks brought more attacks. 2 smaller colonies were evacuated, just in time. The third was not so lucky. Human forces were spread too thin across too many worlds. The Galactic Confederation, fearing the conflict would spread, called an emergency council meeting. The Krell had never attacked Confederation worlds, but their expansion was concerning. We cannot stand by while the Krell destroy an emerging species, said the Vexer representative. Limited military support should be offered. Others disagreed. The humans brought this on themselves by expanding too quickly, argued the Xantari. Delegate still bitter about the USS Dauntless incident. While the council debated, humans took action. Admiral Rodriguez ordered the evacuation of the most vulnerable colonies and established a defensive line around the core human settlements. On Epsilon Prime, the largest human colony world, Lieutenant Commander Grace Chen watched the refugee ships arrive. As military intelligence officer, she had been tracking Krell movements. They'll be here within 2 weeks, she told Governor Peter Morgan. Our regular forces can slow them down, but we need more time to evacuate civilians. Morgan nodded slowly. Then we need to deploy our special forces. The word sent a ripple of reaction through the command room. Special forces had never been deployed in the brief history of human space conflict. Earth Command has authorized it, Morgan continued. Ghost Battalion is being activated. Chen's eyes widened slightly. Like most military personnel, she had heard rumors of Ghost Battalion, but few had ever seen them in action. That evening, a sleek black ship landed at the colony's military base. No markings, no lights. The ship's ramp lowered, and 20 soldiers walked out. They wore standard human combat armor with no special modifications. A Confederation observer, who had been sent to report on the human defense preparations, watched with surprise. He had expected something more impressive. These are the special forces? He asked Chen. They look like regular human troops. You should request permission to observe their briefing, Chen replied with a small smile. The observer, a tall Vexer named Zrin, did exactly that. Inside the command center, he watched as Major Eric Watson addressed his soldiers and the colony's military leadership. Ghost Battalion is authorized for full deployment, Watson said calmly. Our mission is to delay the Krell advance and gather intelligence on their capabilities. Zrin noticed something strange. The regular human officers were keeping their distance from the Ghost Battalion soldiers, almost as if they were uncomfortable around them. Watson continued his briefing, explaining the Krell formation patterns and vulnerabilities. His analysis was so detailed that Zrin wondered how humans had gathered such intelligence. Any questions? Watson asked at the end. A young colony officer raised his hand. Sir, the Krell have already destroyed 2 colonies. How can 20 soldiers make a difference? Watson's smile was cold. You thought our regular troops were terrifying? Watch what happens when we actually try. The Ghost Battalion departed that night on their unmarked ship. Their target, a Krell mining station that was being used as a forward base. 2 days later, Chen received a coded transmission. The mining station had been neutralized. All Krell eliminated. Ghost Battalion had suffered 0 casualties. When the security footage from the station reached Epsilon Prime, even Chen was disturbed by what she saw. The Ghost Battalion operators moved differently than regular soldiers. Their actions were unnervingly efficient. Where regular troops might use overwhelming force, these soldiers used precise, minimal actions with maximum effect. The Confederation observer Zrin watched the footage in silence. When it ended, he turned to Chen. "These soldiers," he said quietly, "they appear physically identical to your regular troops. What makes them different?" Chen considered how much to reveal. "It's not about physical capabilities," she finally said. "It's about how far they're willing to go." Zrin didn't understand, but the footage was sent to the Confederation Council. The debate about helping humans shifted dramatically. Some representatives now argued that perhaps the Krell were not the greatest threat in this conflict. On Earth, more Ghost Battalion teams were being deployed. For the first time, humans were no longer just defending. They were taking the fight to the enemy. Word spread quickly through the Galactic Confederation about the human special forces. The Council demanded to observe these elite troops in action. After lengthy negotiations, Earth Command agreed to allow 3 Council observers to witness a Ghost Battalion operation. The observers, Zrin from the Vexor, Telazan from the Xantari, and Dr. Zel Thran, who had studied the human colonists, arrived at the human forward base on New Victoria. The colony was heavily fortified, expecting a Krell attack within days. Major Eric Watson met them in the briefing room. He was of average height and build for a human. Nothing about his appearance suggested he was different from the regular troops they had seen before. "Welcome to New Victoria," he said. "You're here to observe our operations against the Krell. I want to be clear, you will remain on this base. What you see on screens is all you get." The observers nodded in agreement. They had expected restrictions. "Your first question," Watson continued, "is probably what makes us different from regular human soldiers. Physically, nothing. We have the same limitations, the same biology." Telazan leaned forward. "Then why are you considered special forces?" "That's what you're here to understand," Watson replied simply. The briefing continued. A Krell battlecruiser had been detected approaching New Victoria. The Ghost Battalion's mission was to board it, capture its command systems, and redirect it away from the colony. Dr. Zel Thran blinked his 6 eyes rapidly. "Board it? With how many soldiers?" 8, Watson answered. The observers exchanged glances. Even for humans, this seemed impossible. Later that day, they watched as 8 soldiers prepared for the mission. Their gear appeared standard: combat armor, weapons, communication systems. Nothing extraordinary. Lieutenant Roy Jackson led the team. He was quiet, focused, checking his gear methodically. The observers noticed the regular troops giving him and his team wide berth in the hangar. "Why do the others avoid them?" Zrin asked, a nearby officer. The officer hesitated. "They're different, the way they think, it's not like us." The mission launched at midnight. A small stealth craft carried Ghost Battalion to intercept the Krell cruiser. In the command center, Watson and the observers watched through helmet cameras. The boarding was silent. Using a cutting tool, they created an entry point and a maintenance access. One by one, they entered the Krell ship. What happened next shocked the observers. The Ghost Battalion soldiers moved through the ship like shadows. When they encountered Krell soldiers, they didn't engage in firefights. Instead, they used minimal force with surgical precision. "They're not fighting like warriors," Telazan whispered. "They're moving like predators." In one corridor, a soldier, named Corporal Ellie Summers, was cornered by 3 Krell. Instead of retreating, she charged directly at them. Her movements were so unexpected, so contrary to self-preservation, that the Krell hesitated. That split second was all she needed. "Did you see that?" Dr. Selthron asked. "She deliberately exposed herself to danger to create an opening." Watson nodded. "Regular soldiers are trained to minimize risk. Ghost Battalion is trained to accept risk when the mission requires it." Within 45 minutes, the team reached the bridge. Lieutenant Jackson calmly directed his team to secure the command systems. The Krell captain was captured alive. Ship secured, Jackson reported, his voice as steady as if he were reporting the weather. 5 casualties on our side, none critical. Estimated 64 Krell neutralized. The observers were stunned. 8 humans had taken a ship crewed by hundreds of Krell. I don't understand, Zrin finally said. We've analyzed the footage. They're not stronger or faster than regular humans. How do they do this? Watson looked at the screens showing the Ghost Battalion soldiers now directing the captured ship away from New Victoria. Regular human soldiers are taught to fight within certain parameters, he explained, to follow rules to preserve life when possible, including their own. Ghost Battalion is different. They're selected for their ability to operate beyond normal psychological limits. Dr. Zelthron suddenly understood. You're saying the difference is mental, not physical? Exactly, Watson confirmed. Regular humans already terrify the galaxy with their physical resilience. But Ghost Battalion represents what happens when we remove the normal mental restraints. They think differently. They calculate risk differently. They are willing to do what others cannot. The implications sank in. The observers had come expecting to find super soldiers with enhanced abilities. Instead, they discovered something perhaps more frightening. Humans who had been trained to fully embrace the capabilities they already possessed. The Krell cruiser changed course, now heading toward Earth space as a captured prize. On board, Ghost Battalion prepared for extraction, their mission complete. To them, the impossible had simply been another objective to overcome. Lieutenant Nicole Peters never planned to get captured. Ghost Battalion operators were trained to avoid that situation at all costs. But the mission to destroy the Krell communications hub had gone wrong from the start. Now she lay in a containment cell aboard a Confederation intelligence vessel. Her right leg was broken in 2 places. She had 3 cracked ribs. Despite her injuries, she remained perfectly calm, analyzing her surroundings for any potential escape. Captain Ben Martinez received the news of Peter's capture with concern. As the diplomatic liaison between Earth Command and the Confederation, he knew this could create problems. No Ghost Battalion operator had ever been captured alive before. What are they doing with her? He asked the Confederation representative, a tall Vexer named Kalen. Medical examination and questioning. Kalen replied. The Council is curious about your special forces. Martinez frowned. She needs to be returned immediately. Of course. But first, our scientists would like to understand what makes her different from regular human troops. The Confederation medical team was thorough. They scanned Peter's body down to the cellular level. They tested her reflexes, pain tolerance, and physical capabilities despite her injuries. They asked questions which she consistently refused to answer. Dr. Miraval, the lead scientist, was frustrated. We can find no physiological differences, she told her team. Her muscle density, bone structure, nervous system, all within normal human parameters. Perhaps genetic modification, suggested her assistant. No evidence of that either, Val replied. She is simply human. Captain Martinez arrived at the Confederation vessel 48 hours after Peter's capture. He brought with him authorization from both Earth Command and the Council for her immediate release. In the medical bay, he found Peters sitting calmly on her bed, despite her injuries. She nodded slightly at his arrival. Lieutenant, he greeted her. Ready to go home? Yes, sir, she replied simply. Dr. Val approached Martinez before they could leave. Captain, we need to understand. What makes her different? We've found no physical enhancements. Martinez looked at Peters, then back to the doctor. That's because there aren't any. Then how did 8 of your soldiers take a Krell cruiser? How did 20 of them neutralize a mining station? What makes them special forces? Martinez considered his response carefully. Earth Command had authorized limited disclosure to help the Confederation understand the situation. May I show her? Martinez asked Peters. The lieutenant nodded once. Martinez turned to Dr. Val. Hit me. What? The doctor was confused. Try to hit me. Right now. Hesitantly, Dr. Val swung her arm toward Martinez's face. He blocked it easily. Saw that coming because you telegraphed your move, he explained. Regular human troops are trained to read body language, to anticipate, to react. But they're also trained to follow rules of engagement, to preserve life when possible, to operate within certain ethical boundaries. He gestured toward Peters. Ghost Battalion is different. They're selected for their psychological profile. Their training removes those natural hesitations. They see the shortest path to mission success and take it, regardless of personal risk or conventional tactics. Dr. Val looked at Peters with new understanding. You're saying the difference is purely psychological, not physical? Exactly, Martinez confirmed. Regular human troops are already operating at levels that other species consider exceptional, but they hold back. They follow rules. Ghost Battalion doesn't hold back. The implications dawned on Dr. Val. So the difference between your regular forces and special forces is just how much of your natural human capability you're willing to use? Now you understand why the galaxy finds us terrifying, Martinez said quietly. What you've seen as exceptional performance from our regular troops is them operating with restraint. Ghost Battalion simply removes that restraint. Peter stood up, ignoring the pain from her broken leg. We're not different, she said, speaking for the first time. We're just the full expression of what humans can do when necessary. The doctor stepped back involuntarily. There was something in Peter's eyes that made her deeply uncomfortable, a calculated awareness that seemed to process everything as either an asset or an obstacle. Martinez helped Peters toward the exit. The Krell don't understand what they've awakened, he told Dr. Val. Regular human troops fight because they have to. Ghost Battalion fights because they've been designed to excel at it. As they left the medical bay, Dr. Val rushed to send her findings to the Confederation Council. Her report would change how the galaxy viewed humans forever. The Special Forces weren't enhanced super soldiers. They were simply humans without the psychological limitations that kept regular troops from using their full capabilities. The Council now had to face a disturbing question. If these were humans without restraint, what would happen if humanity as a whole decided the restraints were no longer necessary? Operation Thunderbolt began at dawn. Human forces launched simultaneous attacks against 3 Krell-occupied colony worlds. Unlike previous defensive actions, this was a full counter-offensive. Colonel Samantha Wright coordinated the assault from the USS Intrepid. On her tactical display, she tracked both regular troops and Ghost Battalion units. The plan was complex but clear. Regular forces would engage the main Krell defenses while special forces struck key targets behind enemy lines. All units report ready, Colonel, said her communications officer. Wright nodded. Begin the operation. ER. Krell had grown confident after their early victories. They didn't expect humans to strike back so boldly. They certainly didn't expect humans to retake Tau Ceti, the first colony they had destroyed. On the planet's surface, Captain Leon Davis led his company of regular infantry against the main Krell base. His soldiers moved with practiced efficiency, using the ruined human city for cover. Remember, our job is to keep them focused on us, Davis told his lieutenants. Ghost Battalion will handle the command center. The Krell responded to the attack with massive force. Their larger warriors rushed forward, expecting to overwhelm the humans with superior numbers and strength. They were met with coordinated fire, traps, and a level of endurance that continued to surprise them. Davis and his troops held their ground, hour after hour, fighting in conditions that would exhaust most species. Meanwhile, 15 Ghost Battalion operators infiltrated the Krell command center from below. They had spent 2 days digging through collapsed subway tunnels to bypass external defenses. Chief Warrant Officer Doug Martinez led this team. They emerged in the basement of the command building and moved upward floor by floor. Their progress was methodical, almost mechanical in its precision. When they encountered Krell defenders, the difference between regular troops and Ghost Battalion became clear. Where regular soldiers might seek cover and engage in firefights, Ghost Battalion moved directly through danger zones, accepting injuries to complete objectives faster. We have reached the command level, Martinez reported to Colonel Wright, proceeding to capture Krell leadership. The Krell commander, Warlord Dex Kra, had never faced humans before. He had heard stories but dismissed them as exaggerations. Now, as the door to his command center burst open and humans entered, he realized his mistake. Martinez stepped forward. "Surrender now and your lives will be spared," he stated flatly. Dexcraw laughed. "You are outnumbered here, human. My guards will tear you apart." Martinez didn't argue, he simply nodded to his team. What happened next shocked even the Confederation observers monitoring the operation remotely. The Ghost Battalion operators moved with such coordinated precision that they seemed to anticipate each other's actions perfectly. 3 were injured in the process, but within 90 seconds all Krell guards were neutralized. Dexcra found himself facing Martinez, who remained completely calm despite a bleeding wound in his shoulder. "As I said, surrender now," Martinez repeated. The warlord had no choice. He gave the order for all Krell forces to stand down. Similar scenes played out on the other 2 worlds. By the end of the day, human forces had reclaimed all 3 colonies. The Krell fleet, receiving conflicting orders from captured commanders, fell into disarray. On the Confederation observation vessel, representatives from 6 species watched the footage with growing concern. The regular troops were impressive. "Enough," said the Xantari delegate. "But these Ghost Battalion soldiers, they do not fight like warriors," observed the Vexor representative. "They fight like machines, yet they are fully human." Colonel Wright received the final reports as the day ended. Casualties were significant, nearly 300 regular troops dead or seriously wounded. But Ghost Battalion had lost only 7 operators despite taking on the most dangerous objectives. When a Krell prisoner asked why humans fought with such determination, Wright had a simple answer. "Because we don't know how to quit," she said. "Our entire evolution was based on persistence. We keep going when other species would stop." The Krell leadership was transported to Earth for formal surrender negotiations. Along the way, they noticed something disturbing. The Ghost Battalion operators guarding them showed absolutely no hatred, no emotion at all toward their defeated enemy. They were perfectly professional, even kind when circumstances allowed. Yet this made them more frightening, not less. The regular human troops showed anger, grief, and celebration, normal emotional responses to war. The special forces displayed none of these. They simply completed their mission with maximum efficiency. As one Krell officer noted to another, "They can be merciful or ruthless with equal ease. What kind of species can do that?" The Krell homeworld had never been breached by any enemy. Their defense systems were legendary, their fleet massive. Yet somehow, a team of Ghost Battalion operators had infiltrated their central command complex. No one knew exactly how they had done it. Some said they had hidden aboard cargo ships. Others believed they had used experimental stealth technology. Whatever the method, the result was the same. Humanity had placed its most dangerous soldiers at the heart of the Krell government. From there, it took just 24 hours for the entire Krell collective to surrender unconditionally. 2 weeks. Later, Ambassador Olivia Parker stood before the Galactic Confederation Council. The large circular chamber was filled with representatives from dozens of species. Many viewed humans with new caution. "Humanity accepts the Confederation's invitation to join as full members," Parker announced. "We look forward to peaceful cooperation among the stars." The council leader, an ancient Xantari named Vexthar, spoke carefully. "We welcome Earth and its colonies. However, we must address concerns about human military capabilities." Parker nodded. She had expected this. "What specifically concerns the council?" Dr. Zell Thran stepped forward. The xenobiologist had spent years studying humans now. "I have completed my analysis of human capabilities," he said. "With the council's permission, I would like to present my findings." The chamber's screens activated, showing comparative data between humans and other species. "Humans evolved on a high-gravity world with extreme environmental variations," Selthron explained. "They are persistence predators, evolved for endurance rather than speed or strength. They can function despite injuries that would incapacitate most species." The screen showed footage of human colonies, regular military operations, and finally Ghost Battalion missions. Most concerning is their psychological adaptability, Zelthron continued. Regular humans already operate at what most species would consider elite levels. Their special forces represent humans who have been trained to remove normal psychological restraints. Nervous murmurs spread through the chamber. Ambassador Parker raised her hand. If I may address this concern directly, the council leader nodded. Yes, humans are adaptable. Yes, we can endure hardship. But what Dr. Zelthron sees as concerning, we see as our greatest strength, Parker said. We evolved on a dangerous world where survival required cooperation and persistence. We apply these same traits to everything we do, including warfare when necessary. She walked to the center of the chamber. The reason our regular troops seem so formidable is that we train all our people to reach their potential. The reason our special forces seem terrifying is that they are trained to exceed normal limitations when the situation demands it. HFY leaned forward. And what guarantee does the galaxy have that humans will use these capabilities responsibly? The same guarantee you have from any member species. Our commitment to the greater good, Parker replied. We didn't develop special forces because our regular troops weren't effective. We developed them because sometimes surgical precision prevents wider conflict. The council debated for hours before reaching a decision. Humans would be accepted as full members, but with new protocols for military integration. Regular human troops would be classified as elite by Confederation standards. Ghost Battalion and similar units would be classified as Omega-level assets, to be deployed only in extreme circumstances. 6 months later, Captain Ryan Lewis stood in a training facility on Mars. Before him stood 20 soldiers, 5 humans, and 15 aliens from various Confederation species. They represented the first multi-species Special Forces unit. Each of you was selected because you showed potential beyond your species' normal limitations, Lewis explained. What makes humans different isn't our biology. It's our willingness to push boundaries. A Vexor trainee raised his hand. Is it true Ghost Battalion operators can continue fighting despite injuries that would stop others? Lewis nodded. Pain is largely a mental construct. We can choose how we respond to it. And you will teach us this? Asked a Xantari soldier. I'll teach you something more important, Lewis replied. What makes humans special isn't just our ability to endure. It's knowing when to endure and when to find another way. Across the galaxy, humanity continued to expand, building new colonies and strengthening old ones. The Krell Collective, now under Confederation supervision, began the long process of integration. In the council chambers, Dr. Zelthron updated his final report with one additional note. What makes humans unique is not that they created special forces when their regular troops were already terrifying. What makes them unique is that they knew when to use each, and more importantly, when not to.